Hello and welcome to Drunken Philosophy. I am Connor Holmes.
I'm Dan.
And we are
Was I supposed to say my name during that pause? Because I did.
Yeah, I thought you were going to.
Okay, cool.
We are the hosts of this show. We are the
hostess with the mostest.
We are the sole proprietor of all of this material, except for the people that we're bringing up with their philosophy. They own that.
Yeah.
But we own talking about what they wrote.
Which is something that no one would ever try and claim as their own property, because who the fuck would want to own it?
Please do not redistribute this or rebroadcast this in any form.
Yeah.
Unless it's going to get us more popular.
The NFL has copyright over all of this material. Don't try and videotape it or have a...
If you're videotaping us right now doing this podcast, shut it down.
Yeah. How'd you get into our house? What are you doing here? Yeah, all right. So we're going to talk about some philosophy today. We're drinks deep in, I don't know, how many of those have you had, vodka soda-wise?
3, but I woke up hungover this morning, so it counts as 5.
It was Connor's birthday yesterday, and he really wrecked shop on his liver and brain, so he's in recovery mode, so he's only 3 vodka sodas in.
Yeah.
I am also 3 vodka sodas in with a little bit of pad thai, which doesn't add to my drunk, is just delicious.
It's just... addendum on what I said.
Yeah, it's just I wanted to be honest with you guys about everything that I put into my body. We'll continue to drink throughout the broadcasts. We'll see how things go. Okay, do you want to get to the topic? Do you have anything else you want to bring up? So we covered the copyright issue. We covered drinking.
We can talk about how this is a brand new series.
Oh, right.
Comedy Wasteland.
Yep,
Comedy Wasteland. What we started.
It's I hope we stick with that name because we just said it now on a podcast.
Oh, we'll stick with it. It's fine.
It's
or if we don't, it's funny that we said that and then everybody knows we took it back and that we're not friends anymore.
Yeah, and we stopped hanging out completely and no one's going to hear this podcast. But yeah, so this is hopefully one of 3 podcasts that you can listen to now under that umbrella. So
sweet. By the way, created a super sweet website for it.
Also has not happened yet, so
but I know it looks dope in the future.
You're putting a lot of eggs in a basket that has not even been built as a basket yet.
Putting a lot of eggs in the basket I want to build.
Yeah, exactly. Regardless, though, this is the oldest of our podcasts. Same format as always. I'm going to talk about philosophy. Connor's going to not understand most of it, and we're both going to be drunk.
Yep.
That's all that matters. All right, let's get into it.
Did you hear that straw? Because that's whiskey vodka going in my mouth.
You can't hear straws usually. They don't have a good, unless it's a whistling straw, unless there's a hole somewhere in the neck.
My father used to have a whistling straw.
Ugh, let's not bring your dad into it this early. All right, so today I wanted to bring up a topic that we actually, when I started looking into it, it's something that we should have talked about forever ago, when we first started the podcast. It's kind of embarrassing that I haven't brought it up earlier before, but it's the philosophy of humor. And comedy.
That would have been a good one.
That would have been a good first episode. I'm pretty stupid.
No, but then that's just it's just another fucking comedy podcast, man.
That's true. Yeah, we had to really establish ourselves as 2 idiots who don't know anything.
We had to establish ourselves as the people that will quickly slide into a movie reference.
Mm-hmm. And then spend 30 minutes just talking about movies that we like and then sort of forget that we're recording a podcast. So today we're going to talk about the philosophy of humor, and I was just reading about this very recently, as in earlier today, and there's 3 theories when approaching the philosophy of humor, and these aren't competitive theories. It's not like there were 3 schools of thought that were fighting against each other. It's a very ambiguous sort of topic in philosophy because it's not one that people put a lot of attention on, because when you're thinking about a lot of philosophers are trying to solve, the problem of the universe and existence. They're not really thinking about, why stuff funny? Nobody spends a whole book writing about that. So it's very lightly touched on by a lot of philosophers, so there aren't specific schools of thought. But if you retroactively look back, there's, sort of 3 groups of people where you could say, these people thought like this, these people sort of thought like this, and so on and so forth. So the 3 types of theories that we're going to be talking about is the superiority theory of humor, the incongruity theory of humor, and then the relief theory of humor. And these are all sort of theories based around what makes humor humor. Why is something funny? Why is something considered comedy? Why is it induced laughter if it's done correctly? So on and so forth. What are the characteristics of something that's humorous?
Everybody's heard comedic relief.
You mean the thing in the 80s, comic relief?
No,
with
but
Goldberg
but that's what it was named after, comedic relief. Your
your
mom dies, and then
in a story you need comedic relief,
and you're at the funeral,
right?
and your uncle slips on a banana peel,
right?
You just have to laugh.
Okay, so with that, let's go to the relief theory. It's sort of like comic relief, like it's sort of like you're getting a release out of comedy, and it was mostly represented by this guy Herbert Spencer and Sigmund Freud. Everyone knows Freud, but
huge cokehead. That's the only reason I know him.
Huge cokehead. Did enough cocaine to kill a lot of animals, mostly human-sized ones. And this guy, Herbert Spencer, his idea was that when we're laughing, we're releasing this excess of energy that is inside of us, this nervous energy. So like laughter is sort of a response to having all this pent-up stuff inside of us.
I really wish I could just start laughing when I was having one of my like panic attacks.
Some people do. Have you ever seen people have like manic attacks and they just start laughing about stuff and you're like, this guy's crazy. Like when people start laughing for no reason, the immediate thought is this person's insane. We got to get out of here.
Or that dude smoked a hell of a lot of weed.
Right. Yeah. That guy smoked too much and then went to go see The Hobbit 2, Desolation of Smaug, and he's laughing at the wrong parts.
That's a good idea for a sketch, is having like some kind of sitcom, but have the laugh track be off.
Laughter's at the wrong part. The audience is just sick and twisted. And just like, what are you guys laughing at? And then Freud sort of he had that same idea that I don't think they like ever discussed it or anything, him and Spencer, but Freud's idea was that the laughter and humor in general was sort of like a way of releasing these subconscious things. Like Freud was all about what was going on subconsciously in the brain. So it's like, okay, you have pent up sexual and physical aggression, and sometimes it gets released through like these jokes and this laughter, because it's like a way for you to get out this weird nervous energy in your brain, without which, like, if you didn't do that, your brain would like not know how to function correctly. So that's sort of the relief idea. It's like it's sort of like comic relief, where it's like, but comedic relief in a play or a movie is like there's too much serious shit going on and we need a little laughter. The relief theory in philosophy is like there's too much serious shit going on in your brain and too much pressure, and you need to release some of it through comedy.
I wonder if that's true.
Does that hold up at all in your mind? Like, does that make any sense?
Maybe not in my own personal... I mean, I'm sure it has. Maybe I haven't noticed it.
Yeah.
But I'm always just laughing. Mm-hmm. I'm genuinely just pretty laughy.
Maybe it's just because your brain's super fucked up, though.
Probably. It's probably why these, like old onset panic attacks started happening.
Yeah, you just have, like, so many mental problems that you're constantly laughing and having panic attacks.
Yeah, just a little, like, backstory. I've recently been starting to get, like, panic attacks. It was right after I lost my job.
Yeah.
So that probably had a lot to do with it. So now this is making a little
probably not.
It's starting to make a lot more sense.
Nothing to do with
but
it.
Then it was like I was just super hungover one day, and it was the same panic attacks I get when I get super high. And I realized I used to think it was just like, oh, if I smoke weed, I have a panic attack. This is the first time it's been like, no. You just can have a panic attack.
Yeah.
And it's not tied to that one substance.
Just being super stressed out and your brain not being able to function and deal with it.
Yeah. But it's funny because when I drink, I could smoke weed all day long because I don't think about my panic attacks.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the brilliant thing about drinking is you don't have to think about stuff.
Yeah, that's probably...
It's like, this is the wrong podcast.
It's probably why I have like when I'm hungover, it's like I fucking forgot about everything last night and now it's all coming back.
Well, yeah, that's like they always say, like, in therapy or in recovery, where it's like the drinking doesn't actually make your problems go away. It just makes you forget about them. So that's why the people who are super hardcore alcoholics are just drinking constantly, because as soon as you sober up, you realize that you've just been putting off all of your problems.
Yeah. And
you start to have a panic attack. This is not my recommendation to you that you just continue drinking and never sober up, but I'm saying look into it, because it can't be that bad for you.
Probably gonna be horrible.
All right, so that's basically the relief idea, the relief theory. So let's go back to the superiority theory. So this idea is basically like, you know, the old idea of like in medieval times, like the fool, like that was their source of comedy, was like a court jester. And it was literally this borderline retarded person that was either drunk or literally retarded. And they would just come in and make a fool of themselves, and everyone would laugh, and they would get so much joy out of this idiot.
Yeah.
So that's basically the superiority theory. Aristotle said when dealing with, like, Aristotle did a lot of writing on drama and on plays and theater in general. And one of the things he said was tragedy deals with people who are either average or above average, and comedy is dealing with people who are below average. So tragedy is like people like us or better than us that we like to watch play out in these stories. And comedy is almost always people who are below us and we're sort of laughing at them. And that's where the laughter comes from, because it comes from a place of being above them.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think of anything that sets me as the viewer on the same level.
On the same level or even like below. Like,
yeah.
I've definitely, it's weird because like I've seen a lot of smart comedy and I'll be like, oh, that's really smart.
But it's
not like, I think it's funny because I get it, which makes me a little bit above it. Mm-hmm. If I didn't get it, I wouldn't think it was funny, and then it would be higher than me.
Yeah. That might be true then, now that you're bringing it up. Because I was trying to think, I don't think I've ever seen anything. It's mostly just laughing at someone or something.
Well, so there's Hobbes. He
Calvin.
Yeah, of Calvin and Hobbes. No, who actually, funnily enough, Calvin and Hobbes both named after a science, both named after philosophers. Anyway, not important. Just a nice side note if you like comic strips. But no, Hobbes wrote the Leviathan. I think is what it's called.
I don't think so.
Most people had to read it in high school.
I don't think it was. Maybe it was. I remember reading the Leviathan. Weird.
Yeah, I think that's written by Hobbes.
Also, super good metal album by Lamb of God.
Just as a side note. But no, so Hobbes is basically, like, you remember, do you ever read Lord of the Flies?
Yep.
So that's basically, the theory of Lord of the Flies is Hobbes' theory.
That book wasn't
people,
funny.
Yeah. People are born evil. Men are naturally evil. And society, the social contract, is what keeps us, good and sane. But anyway, that's just who Hobbes is. But this was his theory on it. So this quote, he said, that the passion of laughter is nothing else but sudden glory arising from the sudden conception of some eminency in ourselves by comparison with the infirmity of others or with our own formerly. So it's like you're looking at someone and you're considering yourself better than them, and that's how you can get some sort of joy out of it, or it's a reflection of yourself and who you used to be. So even if you're laughing about your own stupidity, it's your own stupidity in the past.
Yeah.
And now you're better than that. So you're still superior. Even if you're laughing at something that points out a flaw in yourself, it's a flaw that you recognize and it's behind you.
Well, how do you explain laughing at like things of yourself in the future?
What do you mean? Give me an example. Por ejemplo.
Like if I was to say like, oh, by like 35, I'm going to be a fucking mess, and like I'm just going to be a drunk on the street or something.
And that's funny to you?
Yeah, like you can say like in passing, it's like, oh yeah, fuck. Like if we were laughing about something, it's like, yeah, by 35, I'm probably going to be a fucking mess.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that's still looking down on.
Yeah,
something.
It's looking down on this projected idea of yourself. Like that's not you right now.
Yes, I'm still looking down on.
Yeah, you're looking down on something that you're still in a superior position. So it's honestly, it's hard for me, like, because I don't think that a lot of the comedy that I watch, like Three Stooges or whatever, where it's like just a couple of dummies running around slapping each other in their faces, like that is not that hilarious to me. So I feel like that's not the kind of comedy that I watch. But if I break down the kind of comedy,
I don't think anybody watches that still thinks it's funny.
Old people,
well,
simpletons.
Even Mr. Bean, I don't think even people watch that.
Yeah, it's mostly just physical comedy. I'm not that interested in it. I don't really give a shit about it.
Well, but it's done right. Like I used to fucking laugh my ass off at Mr. Bean.
I never really got into it, even when I was a kid. I think Rowan Atkinson is super hilarious. He did this series called The Black Adder on BBC that's just super duper smart historical comedy stuff, really well written.
Oh yeah, I think I see that.
And then getting into Mr. Bean, I was like, this guy just falls down and stuff. Like I don't give a
This
shit.
is how I know that my dad was a simpleton, was that he loved Mr. Bean, but I never thought to like look farther into the actor and maybe find something smarter.
Most people didn't. It's fine. But yeah, it's hard for me to think of a situation where I'm laughing at something that I don't. If I really think about it, I don't hold myself in a slightly higher position then. Like, it's always sort of looking down on something and thinking.
Even if it is somebody above you, it's like their flaws. It's like, I'm better than that.
Yeah. Like, there could be a whole comedy about people in high society, but the joke is that they are, stupid and the worst or whatever. Like, there's nothing funny about Downton Abbey because it's just like, oh, these people are better than me. Like, this is a drama. Like, that's all this is about. I don't know. It's interesting to think about that because even when I'm watching a comedy and I don't fully understand it, it's not really funny to me until I completely get it, and I'm like, oh, this is it for me. Like, this is why it's funny. Because
you can miss some things and still find it funny.
Well, yeah, but it's like the stuff that I understand is what I think is funny.
Like, mostly when I watch Family Guy, references go fucking way over my head sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just like old people.
That's a bummer, though. Is like when I watch Family Guy, I get all the references, and I was like, this is lazy writing. Like, this is just references.
Yeah, that's true, also. But
that just bums me out. Okay, so let's take that. We're sort of in agreement about the superiority theory.
Yeah.
The relief theory, I think, holds a little bit of ground, but it's more of a psychological thing. Like, the weird thing about the relief theory is it's less about the object of what is humor and what is funny. It's more about our reaction to it.
Yeah.
Like, sure, maybe laughter comes out because I'm trying to release some sort of energy or something, but I don't think that has anything to do with what is funny. It has more to do with how I react to what's funny or what I consider funny. So it's sort of a separate, not really interesting theory.
And then this third one's going to be the real zinger that ties it all together.
Well, I hope so. No, this third one is actually, it might totally throw a wrench into our gears from what we were just talking about. So it's the incongruity theory. And it's basically... It's the one when I was reading about this that I sort of agreed with the most, where it's something it's unexpected, that's a surprise, that is, we had expectations going in about what something was going to be, and then our expectations were flipped on ourselves, and that's when we laugh.
Yeah, that's like the staple of all stand-up writing.
Right, and so that to me is like the staple of what humor essentially is. It's in the surprise, like... That's why when I go into writing something or writing sketch, like I always want there to be some sort of like, not necessarily like a M. Night Shyamalan twist, but like I want there to be something.
A twist.
Like I want people to be watching a scene and then have something happen that is unexpected. Like if someone can watch the first few lines of a scene and understand what's going to happen throughout the rest of it, I've done a poor job.
Yeah.
Because that's all laid out for them in the first few lines of exposition. They don't need to watch it. It's all about the surprise.
Well, humor is a weird thing because you don't have to know why it's good. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Like we understand. Like we've been doing comedy for a while, and we understand. Like, no, I can see a fucking bad sketch just from reading like the first couple of lines of like you were saying.
Sure. Yeah.
Be like, oh, this is and then it's like, yep, it went exactly the way I planned it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for a lot of people, it doesn't need to be qualified, though. It's just like, it's either funny or it's not. It doesn't need to be broken down in that way.
No, but
we do.
But even then, there's like the whole thing of like inside jokes of just like of shitty inside jokes that some people get, and you're just like, that's not funny to me.
Yeah.
I think I'm going off on the wrong.
No, I sort of get what you're saying, though. And I mean, I think it ties back in where it's like the original... So there's this line from Kant, and he says, laughter is an affection arising from the sudden transformation of a strained expectation into nothing. So that's sort of like, if you think about the beginning of a scene, it's laying out the exposition of what the scene is, and there's this strained expectation from the audience where it's like, they're all trying to figure out what the gag is going to be, or what the joke is going to be, or what the scene means in general. It's like, what am I seeing? They're trying to figure it out. Or even when stand-up, like you start off with a premise, and they go like, they're all trying to figure out where this is going.
It's usually a pussy joke.
Usually ends in a pussy joke. But what makes it so funny is when you have this huge expectation in your head, and then it's completely turned into nothing. That expectation you had was completely wrong, and it's going to a completely different place. And that's when you have the fits of laughter, and that's when you get comedy out of it.
Yeah, it's when you're just like, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, and that's like, I for a long time thought about like, like when animals bare their teeth, it's a reaction of fear.
That's normally when I say, I did not see that coming. You're just a terrier.
When animals bare their teeth at you. But it's I think it's interesting that like I think about the
How
same
are
way.
you going to tie this back? Keep going.
What, with animals burying their teeth?
This is like one of those moments where I'm just like, where is he going with this?
Well, I think a lot of the same ways about like animals that I do about humans when they laugh. I think laughter at its almost basest level is a reaction of fear, because it's a reaction of something that's unexpected and you didn't see coming and you don't know how to react to it. And so then you just erupt into this shaking of your diaphragm and showing your teeth.
That could be true.
To people. Like, it's associated with something very positive now psychologically, so I think people don't feel that way anymore. But I know for me, like, if I break it down to the most base level, if I'm watching something and something very absurd happens, and I really enjoy when absurd things happen in comedy, my reaction is like uncontrollable laughter, because I'm sure my lizard brain is just like so scared of like whatever absurd thing just happens. Like, what is this universe that I'm seeing now where all these absurd things can happen? And so my brain just like, ah.
I think this place would be this world would be so much better if our initial reaction was just fight or flight.
Yeah, it's just you'd be doing a comedy show and you pull out like a weird gag and everyone in the audience just runs up and punches you.
Just starts
half
punching each other.
We just all just turned into base animals. What is this world?
And then you have to get everybody corralled back to watch the next sketch.
Yes, you're like, all right, calm down. And the exact same thing happens 3 minutes later. It'd be the greatest show on earth. I could only wish we could have that reaction. So that's basically the incongruity theory, is the surprise of it all.
Yeah.
And that's, so I mean, I am very close to that theory because I like absurdism and I like twists and I like turns in comedy, and I think that's where the reaction comes out. But it's also, now that we've discussed the superiority theory a little bit, it's hard for me to imagine comedy without that aspect sort of underneath it all. I feel like the incongruity is easier to pick out. You can say like, oh, this was funny because it was something unexpected. That's very easy to see. The superiority theory, you almost have to think about a little bit, like, am I above this? Is that why I'm laughing at it? Is that why it's comfortable for me to laugh at it?
Yeah.
Would it be humorous if I felt below this scene? Like,
how do you explain, though, when I was talking about the inside jokes, this is what I was trying to get at, was like, how do you explain the people that just think something is funny
because they can't separate themselves from it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that is almost like a subset of all this stuff where it's like, yes, it can be very funny to you, but then it's like the universality of humor, where it's like, just because it's funny to you doesn't mean it's funny to everybody else, is almost, I mean, it's sort of tied in because it's, one of the things people talk about with this was like, okay, are we talking about the object of humor, like what makes it something funny, or are we talking about the human reaction to it? And we're talking about what makes something funny, then is it like universal traits? Like everything that's funny has these 3 things in common. I don't think you can do that. I don't think anybody's ever laid that out and been like, every single joke or funny thing has always had these things in common.
Well, if somebody did do that, I think we'd have a lot more of the same different, like, sketches.
Yeah, it would just be like every show would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Unless they were just 3 very general things, and then it wouldn't really prove anything. And so I think it's hard for people to create a set of traits for humor. So then there can be something that's very, very funny to somebody personally that's not really funny to anybody else. And then I think just psychologically it can be hard for that person to not understand that that's not very funny to other people. Like when we do this podcast, it's very funny to me and you. Nobody else likes it.
It's not funny to anybody else.
It's not funny to anybody else.
It's mildly interesting to some people.
Yeah, it's mildly interesting to people who like to listen to it while really loud music is also playing. Yeah. Like they're creating dystopian soundscapes with us and like a couple industrial bands for some play that they're doing the sound design for. Yeah.
Sounds like robots
marching. The science
of
humor. But yeah, I mean, we've both witnessed that before, where it's like people try to make something personal to them into a comedy piece. I've tried to do it multiple times, and then I get halfway through and I'm just like, this isn't good. Like, I'm already over this joke that I was so in love with 2 days ago.
Yeah, Caitlin's really into fart humor, and I cannot understand why she likes fart humor.
Farts be funny.
They're kind of funny. It's like, whatever.
It really depends on the context of the fart. but
no. I'm not allowed to fart in front of her.
Oh, what?
I'm allowed to, because when I actually fart, it's gross.
It's gross. But when you make a fart noise,
when I make a fart noise, when I'm going into the shower, she thinks it's hilarious. But like, it's so stupid because I throw out some real good zingers, and she's like, "You're an idiot."
Nope.
But when I fucking walk to the shower and I go. Fucking.
Well, it's like there's that Louis C.K. quote where it's like, you don't have to be smart to enjoy a fart joke, but you have to be stupid not to.
That's pretty true.
Or something like that. It's something along those lines. I'm slightly misquoting it, but that's the basic gist of it. Whereas like farts are just funny. It's just a funny thing, and you don't have to be a genius to get that.
Why are farts funny?
Because it's a surprise. It's a thing that's not supposed to happen.
It is a surprise.
Yeah, it's a thing that is,
nobody plans a fart.
Yeah, it's an incongruency in modern culture. It'd be like if farts were totally natural and everybody was farting all the time. Farts
but they
wouldn't
are,
be funny.
And people are doing that.
Right, but you're not supposed to, which is why it's funny when it does happen because it's like you're breaking a cultural rule. If it was like totally acceptable that everyone was just ripping them constantly, like Obama's giving a speech and he just rips a fart and no one even bats an eye. Farts wouldn't be funny. It would just be like
I don't think anybody would bat an eye.
It'd be like breathing. We would, that would be the most popular YouTube video of all time if Obama was doing his speech and just ripped a fart.
What do you think the number would get up to?
Ooh, at least 7.
Dude, I bet you could get like fucking 1 billion views.
Didn't Gangnam Style get 1 billion views? Pretty sure it did.
Did he?
Yeah, he got 1 billion. So Obama farting, fart president could definitely get over 1 billion.
Imagine
views.
if Psy farted in that video.
Well, he was essentially a nobody before that video got popular, so I don't think that would really affect his numbers that much.
Okay, but what if he farted in his next video?
That's what he really should have done. Instead of that, like, gentleman or whatever video he made, he should have just had him farting for 30 minutes. And that, honestly, just out of pure shock value, would have gotten at least 1 billion views.
Biggest star in the world chooses to end his career on a fart joke.
On a 30-minute fart joke. Summarily elected president of South Korea.
I bet Obama farting would probably you could probably get 1 billion views.
If that was a Vine, that would blow up. Like
if it was a Vine, the internet would shut down.
Just the whole internet would break.
But a natural Vine, not like a re-upload.
Oh, you mean like a grapevine?
No, like a natural, like somebody was vining and he farted.
Yeah, and he farted. like Michelle Obama was like, they planned out a video that they were going to make and is like, hey, say that joke. And so he starts recording him, and then 3 seconds into the Vine, he just farts on accident.
No, I just mean like not taking a YouTube clip and just vining a YouTube clip.
Oh, no, we're not an idiot. Come on. Think better about our nation. And the first family. Anyways, so this incongruity theory, like I mentioned, Kant had that great quote about it. Schopenhauer, who we've talked about before, had similar theories on it. Aristotle, even though he brought up the superiority thing earlier, his sort of the basis for it was still, it's got to be something unexpected, a twist, a surprise, something like that, a twist. But the biggest problem with this incongruity theory is it's very broad. It's not very specific. It's literally just saying, like, something has to be, you have to have expectations and then something different has to happen. So it's almost too broad to really mean anything substantial other than, like, different stuff. Like, differences happen and then there's comedy. Like, that's not really a theory. That's just, like, it's not helping anybody. It's a little too broad.
Well, no, you just take that subset of that theory and then just build something in between those things. Yeah,
but then once you start getting specific, then you run into the same problem of all the other theories, was like, are you going to apply very specific things to what is humor? Like, are you going to have like 5 tenets of humor? It's like, if you don't have one of these 5 things, and it's not technically...
Well, people have done that in books.
Yeah, and they're always wrong, though. Like, there's always big flaws in it.
No, they're always right and wrong.
Yeah, I guess that's the big thing. Is like, you're always sort of right and you're always sort of wrong. Humor is sort of an amoebus.
Yeah, it's constantly changing and people are different, and it's whatever your theory on it. It's like whatever gets your dick hard, like that works.
Yeah. The other big flaw with the incongruity theory is that it doesn't separate why certain things that are absurd and incongruous are funny and certain things that are absurd and incongruous aren't. because twists and turns happen all the time in your life, and it's not always funny.
Yeah.
So it sort of depends on context, and it sort of depends on content and a lot of other things. It's not just as basic as expectation and then a turn. Because sometimes expectation is, hey, my girlfriend's not pregnant, and then the turn is, hey, your girlfriend is pregnant. Not very funny, is it?
No, that's not funny.
No, it's not. And we both just laughed because we were both very scared. You
see that? Yeah.
We both bared our teeth. We were both scared of the future.
Look at you. You're a modern day fucking magician. See what I did? I changed it from something that made sense to just a magician.
That was very funny. But basically, my conclusion of this after reading all this stuff is sort of what you just said earlier, which is there's no real... like, you're always right and you're always wrong. There's no real conclusion to it.
Why doesn't that permeate more of the rest of the philosophy world?
Because people are dicks. Like, that's literally my theory about everything, is like, you're not always right, you're not always wrong. It's sort of like an ever-changing thing. But people like to have very definite theories about stuff. Humor, I feel like, changes so quickly because depending on your mood, you can think something is funny day to day. Like, you can think it's funny yesterday and it's not funny today. And so I feel like it changes so quickly, people are afraid to attach a real theory to it, which is why it's not touched on so much. But in philosophy in general, people always want to attach strict theories to something.
Yeah, they should just chillax.
Yeah, and it's just
watch
like...
some sketch.
Yeah. That was always my advice when I was in philosophy class, is not watch some sketch, because that... I would
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I would have been kicked out. But it was always just like, why does it have to be so definite about everything? Like, why can't you just have like a theory and then be like, or I'm wrong, and then like literally end every book with, or everything I've said is wrong? Because
Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem is like everyone who's writing philosophy is sort of striving for someone to appreciate their work and like think it's valid. And if you end every book or essay with, or maybe it's all bullshit, no one's really gonna read.
Did you ever do that in class?
I did in like short essays where like we would have to write responses and stuff, and I'd be like, this is what I think, and then at the end I would just be like, or it's not that, and I'm completely off base. Like, who knows? But when you're writing,
see, that's the kid that would get an A in my class.
Yeah,
I'm just like
I was the king of the B plus A minus because I would just throw myself under the bus in the conclusion.
He's got a pretty good head on his shoulders.
Yeah.
I mean,
he seems to know what he's doing. He's lacking a lot of confidence.
He wrote the thing, he understood it, and he tried his best. And also, he understands that maybe he's just talking a bunch of horse shit.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That was the greatest part, is like, I always knew when I had a good professor, because like somebody would be discussing like they would have a really serious opinion about something in class, and I would immediately just raise my hand and just be like, or, like, the exact opposite of what you're saying. Like, it's also totally possible that you're completely wrong, and it's 100% possible that I'm completely wrong. And then I would look at the professor, and they would just be like, "You get it. You're gonna get a solid B plus this year." It's fun stuff. But I think that's what happens with the philosophy of humor. Is that's why it's not touched on very often. It's very ambiguous, very amoebus, constantly changing thing. What is funny? What makes something funny? It's not only very personal, because there are certain things that I think funny that obviously like other people don't think are funny.
I think everything that you think is funny is funny.
That's why we get along so well.
Yeah.
Connor and I are conjoined twins, by the way. I don't know. We share most of a brain.
By the way, the mic bleeding is really bad because I'm like 7 inches away from his face.
Yeah, it's super crazy. I don't know why we didn't just buy one mic and just face into it. But no, so it's like, yeah, obviously not everybody's going to universally agree on what is funny. So it's really hard to talk about. And then if you want to get really general about it to sort of just bring in everybody into the discussion, it becomes so general that it's like, what's the point of talking about it?
But it's also funny because like brothers and sisters don't think the same things are funny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, best friends don't think some of the same things are funny. Like, and it all depends on mood, too. Like, one day I'll think something is hilarious, and you'll think it's stupid. And then, like, 6 months later, you'll be like, hey, man, did you see that show? It's super funny. And be like, yeah, I was watching it 6 months ago. It's not that funny to me anymore.
That's mostly what I think about all the sketches you write.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I guess I'll act in them. And then
in retrospect,
I go, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and by that point, I'm over them. I'm just like, no, these suck. This is garbage. But I don't know. It's an interesting topic to talk about. I wish people talked more about the difficult things to nail down in philosophy. Whereas like you can get very specific and be in a camp about, you know, certain aspects of philosophy of mind or other things, but there's certain very ambiguous qualities to something like humor. It's not like time where like you could start applying science to it and things get complicated. It's a very ephemeral, feeling-based thing.
I wish you could. That'd be so dope.
Apply science to comedy?
You know, not science, but I mean, I wish there was like some fucking. Well, that's the chase.
Yeah,
it's like, am I funny or not?
But I feel like if we ever get to that point in society where we figure out what is humor, we get down to the base value of it, then it loses all of its humor. And that's why I think the incongruity theory holds like the most weight, because if we knew what made something funny, I feel like it wouldn't be funny anymore.
No. Because if we figured it out, it's just always going to be funny.
But there's nothing like that. There's nothing where I've ever been like, this is always going to be funny. It almost always gets dead to me. Like it's nothing. Nothing's evergreen.
Have you seen John Stamos' performance? And
you couldn't even finish.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that definitely has something to do with it. It sort of needs to be new and fresh. I mean, that's why you can't watch the same stand-up hour every week for a year. Eventually, it's not going to be funny.
Well, but that's only just because of the incongruity theory of just like you know exactly where the premise is going.
Exactly. So it needs to be something
What about the
fresh
things
and new.
where you want to listen to the same joke again? Like people call out jokes to comedians who are huge from like old albums.
Bit. Well, it's like with the John Mulaney's special. I watched that like every day, like 5 days in a row, just because I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. I don't know what it is about that. I think at that point it's just appreciation of the art form. I don't know if you're still getting a huge laugh out of it. Maybe you're getting a big laugh out of how you enjoyed it the first time. Like it's a remembrance laugh.
Yeah.
Like when you see a drama for the millionth time, like whenever I watch When Harry Met Sally.
For me, it's You Got Mail.
Nice. We're big Ryan heads. Is
Billy Crystal in You Got Mail?
No, that's Tom Hanks.
What's Billy Crystal in?
When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, okay, maybe that's why I brought that up.
Yeah. Do you want to go watch that after this?
I don't mind.
I love it. But I think it's one of those things where like when you do watch drama,
where did he go? What?
Billy Crystal, he's still around. He looks like a turtle that fell out of his shell. He looks terrible these days. But like when you watch dramas, there's certain you can watch the same dramatic movie over and over again, and it'll still give you that same impact. And it's it's going to happen, but you still feel sad at the points you're supposed to feel sad. And I think that's mostly remembrance of how you felt sad the first time you watched it.
That's kind of like what Matt Besser said about how when you get high the first time, and the rest of your life is just trying to chasing
that first high. Yeah. You're chasing that feeling that you had when the first time you got high. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, that's most emotions, I think. And maybe that's part of humor. Maybe that's our own specific theory about humor, as some of it is based in memory. Because definitely there's certain sketches where I'll watch where it's like, even if I've never seen it before, it will remind me of a different type of sketch or a different type of humor that I've seen before. And even if I know what's coming, it still makes me laugh in the same way that other thing did. I don't know if that makes sense. Like it's less of a surprise because I can sort of see what's coming, but I still get a good chuckle out of it because like I'm appreciating that thing that I enjoyed in the past.
Like the It Gets Better but YouTube videos?
Yeah, those are super hilarious to me.
Even though they're all the same formula, you still laugh every time.
When I watch those guys from Pixar being like, it gets better, it gives this huge hearty laugh from the depths of my bowels. And I say, no, it doesn't.
And you go, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
You're going to go to hell.
Just kidding, everybody. We're obviously joking. That was an unexpected twist, which...
We hung out with a gay man last night.
It made both Connor and I very scared, and so we bared our teeth and laughed because we were afraid that everyone was going to think we're homophobes. But no, we did hang out with our good friend Keegan last night.
I wouldn't call him a good friend because he's going to hell.
I gave him a hug when I dropped him off at home, so we're good friends now.
That was very brave of you.
Brave of me hugging a gay man?
Yeah.
It's not my first time. It's not my first rodeo.
You could have got the classic gay disease, the flu.
Bird flu, that is. All right, I think that's the end of this episode. I'm glad we got to talk about comedy for the first time on this podcast that we consider a comedy podcast.
At least that's what iTunes considers it, because I put it on the box.
Yeah, check that box. Sure, it's comedy. Yeah.
You should really have to go through like some kind of process beforehand. It's like,
they shouldn't just take your word for it.
No, this is not funny.
Yeah. There's just one intern at iTunes is like, you're wrong. You think this is funny? You're wrong. This ain't good.
I would love to be that dude.
Yeah, we'll find out what that guy's credentials is.
All that power.
So much power. No one man should have all this power. Hashtag Kanye West. Yeah, so check out this podcast. Check out the other 2 podcasts. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Comedy Wasteland is going to be the place to check out.
Also, check out our dope website that I built.
Yeah, check out in the future Connor's dope website that he hasn't built yet. But it'll be done by the time you're hearing this, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Good night.